The Pokemon world is filled with mysteries, legends, and strange bits of lore that quietly shape the history of each creature you meet. Tonight, we're exploring calm, detailed facts that reveal how each species came to be, how they battle, and what makes them unforgettable. Marowak has always stood apart from other Kanto Pokemon because its entire identity is shaped by story, memory, and resilience. Introduced in Generation 1, Marowak is the evolved form of Cubone, a species famous for its heartbreaking lore involving the loss of its mother. Unlike Cubone, who carries the weight of sorrow and longing, Marowak evolves into a creature defined not by grief, but by strength built from surviving it. This emotional foundation has made Marowak one of the most memorable Pokemon in the entire series, representing themes rarely explored in early game design: coping with pain, identity shaped by trauma, and transformation through adversity. In its standard Cantonian form, Marowak is a pure ground-type Pokemon, but its relationship with its bone club sets it apart from nearly any creature in the franchise. The bone isn't just a weapon, it's a symbol of ancestry, lineage, and protection. Marowak is known to practice techniques with its club, striking rocks until the bone becomes polished and hardened, shaping its combat style into something uniquely fierce. When battling, Marowak uses throws, spins, and rapid swings that resemble martial arts more than simple physical attacks. Its signature move, Bonerang, is one of the only ground-type attacks that can strike twice in a single turn, illustrating just how specialized Marowak's fighting style is. Marowak's lore deepened dramatically in Pokemon Red and Blue through the famous storyline in Lavender Town. When Cubone's mother is killed by Team Rocket, her spirit remains trapped in Pokemon Tower. That ghost belongs to a Marowak who died defending her child, and players must calm her spirit before ascending the tower. This moment, subtle, quiet, and emotionally charged, was groundbreaking for Pokemon storytelling. It established Marowak as a species tied to themes of love, sacrifice, and lingering grief, and it remains one of the most iconic scenes in the franchise's history. This tragic backstory contributed to Marowak's reputation as one of the most emotionally complex Pokemon of Generation 1. However, outside of that storyline, Marowak expresses its personality not through sorrow, but through determination. Pokédex entries repeatedly describe it as hardened, fierce, and independent. As Marowak matures, it becomes much braver than Cubone. Even bold and aggressive when necessary, it loses its fear of larger predators, gains confidence in battle, and becomes known as a guardian figure in the wild. This evolution from vulnerable child to powerful warrior mirrors real-world rites of passage, adversity shaping strength over time. Marowak's Alolan form, introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon, elevated its lore even further. The Alolan variant is a fire ghost-type Pokemon with a design inspired by traditional Pacific Island fire dancers and spiritual guardians. In Alola, Marowak developed new rituals after repeated threats from natural predators like Mandibuzz. These Marowak began twirling flaming bones, using them both defensively and symbolically. Their flames represent both unity and mourning, tying Alolan Marowak to cultural themes of remembrance and celebration of life. This shift from ground type to ghost fire type also connects beautifully to Cubone's story. The Alolan evolutionary line holds onto spiritual energy rather than letting grief consume them. In battle, Alolan Marowak behaves very differently from its Kanto counterpart. Its ability Lightning Rod allows it to nullify electric attacks, giving it surprising defensive utility, while Cursed Body and Rockhead alter its battle approach dramatically. Most famously, its exclusive item, the Thick Club, doubles Marowak's attack stat, turning it into a shockingly powerful physical attacker. This item alone transformed Marowak from a slow, mid-tier Pokemon into one of the most dangerous wall breakers in competitive play. When holding the Thick Club, even normally modest moves like Shadow Bone, Flame Charge, and Bonerang become devastating. The introduction of Shadow Bone, Alolan Marowak's signature attack, plays into its lore of spiritual guardianship. The move's spectral energy, combined with the physical strike of its bone, symbolizes the fusion of the earthly and the spiritual, reinforcing Marowak's role as a guide for lost souls. In Alola, local legends say that Alolan Marowak dances at night to honor departed spirits, the flames on its club flickering like ancestral torches. These rituals may also explain its ghost typing. The species has formed such a close relationship with spiritual energy that it straddles the boundary between life and afterlife. Marowak's design evolution also reflects a deeper emotional narrative. While Cubone's skull mask symbolizes grief and identity confusion, Marowak's design evolves into one of acceptance and purpose. The skull becomes more fitted, less like a mask and more like armor, representing that Marowak has embraced its past rather than running from it. Its posture becomes upright, confident, and ready. From a storytelling standpoint, Marowak is one of the few Pokemon whose evolution explicitly represents emotional healing. Marowak's role in the anime also added depth to its personality. In early episodes, Cubone's loneliness and defensive attitude were highlighted, but later appearances showed fully evolved Marowak as proud, competitive, and even playful. In Pokemon Origins, the Lavender Town storyline was retold with haunting beauty, reinforcing the emotional power behind the species' lore. In Sun and Moon, Alolan Marowak appeared as a ceremonial guardian Pokemon, emphasizing its cultural significance. In Pokemon Go, Alolan Marowak became a beloved raid boss thanks to its striking design and strong ghost fire combination. Its dance-like animations and glowing Bone Club made it one of the most visually impressive raid encounters in the game. Players admired its distinct personality, and it quickly became a favorite among collectors. Thematically, Marowak stands out because it represents a full emotional arc within a single evolutionary line, from grief to healing to empowerment. That journey gives it narrative weight unmatched by most early generation Pokemon. Its connection to ancestral memory, ritual combat, and protective instincts make it feel like a character rather than simply a creature. Whether encountered as a grounded warrior in Kanto or a spiritual dancer in Alola, Marowak carries centuries of lore in its design, reinforcing the idea that Pokemon can have deep cultural meaning. Even today, Marowak remains one of the most beloved Pokemon from Generation 1 because of its emotional depth, unique combat style, and beautifully evolving storytelling across regions. It's a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even painful origins can lead to strength, purpose, and legacy. Hitmonlee has always stood out as one of the most unique and physically impressive Pokemon in the entire Kanto Pokédex, a creature shaped not by elemental abilities or mystical origins, but by pure discipline, anatomical precision, and years of martial refinement. Known as the Kicking Pokemon, Hitmonlee is designed around the principles of real-world martial arts, particularly disciplines that emphasize lower body striking, flexibility, and explosive leg-based power. From the moment players encountered it in the fighting dojo of Saffron City, Hitmonlee carried an unmistakable presence, silent, focused, and devoted entirely to mastering the art of the kick. Everything about its physiology, its behavior, and its long-standing representation in Pokemon lore reinforces that identity. Its most iconic trait is its incredibly extendable legs. Anatomically, Hitmonlee's legs aren't simply long, they are elastic, allowing the muscles and tendons to stretch far beyond what their proportions suggest. This elasticity gives Hitmonlee extraordinary reach, enabling it to strike opponents from distances most fighting-type Pokemon could never manage. In battle, this means high accuracy kicks delivered with shocking force, catching enemies off guard before they can fully react. The Pokédex often mentions that Hitmonlee's legs can stretch to a variety of lengths depending on the situation. Long-distance kicks for airborne foes, compact powerful strikes for close-range combat, and whipping rotations for finishing blows. All of this contributes to Hitmonlee embodying not just brute strength, but technical mastery. Hitmonlee's design is inspired heavily by martial artists known for flexibility and elite kicking talent. Many fans point to Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and Savate as clear influences, each style emphasizing different ranges of kicks. Hitmonlee's fighting style seems to blend them into a single, specialized discipline. Taekwondo lends the agility and spinning kicks. Muay Thai contributes the powerful knee strikes and clinch mechanics, while traditional kickboxing offers the rhythm and pacing. The Pokemon world often describes Hitmonlee training hours at a time without rest, working tirelessly to sharpen each movement until its kicks land with perfect timing and balance. That combination of intense discipline and inherent physical ability makes it one of the purest representations of martial arts philosophy in the franchise. Its trademark move, high jump kick, is a testament to the risks and rewards of this philosophy. In the early games, the move was one of the most powerful fighting-type attacks, but carried a dramatic consequence. If it missed, Hitmonlee hurt itself badly from the failed landing. That risk perfectly captured Hitmonlee's identity. Its strength comes from committing fully to its strikes. When a Hitmonlee leaps high into the air, tucks its body, and drives downward with explosive force, it's not just attacking, it's expressing a lifetime of refined technique. The move demonstrates that Hitmonlee is the type of Pokemon that wins battles not by hiding behind defenses, but by trusting its own ability and precision. Hitmonlee's personality has always been portrayed as calm, serious, and disciplined. Trainers frequently describe it as incredibly focused, preferring silence over noise and practice over rest. It doesn't waste movement, nor does it show off. When it enters battle, it does so with the measured breath and posture of a true martial artist. Even in the anime, Hitmonlee's portrayal emphasizes its smooth motions, balanced stance, and near frictionless transitions between strikes. Fans still remember the iconic Fighting Pokemon Tournament episode where a Hitmonlee, controlled by a trainer using dishonest tactics, dazzled audiences with fluid spinning kicks and surgical precision. That battle cemented its identity as a Pokemon whose power lies not in flashy explosions or supernatural energy, but in skill. Its physiology is built entirely around combat efficiency. Hitmonlee lacks a defined neck, and its spherical head sits directly atop its torso, minimizing its center of gravity and increasing stability when striking. This compact build allows it to maintain balance even when delivering high-risk kicks. Its feet are long, narrow, and segmented, giving it excellent grip during pivots and rotations. The tapering shape of its legs helps conserve momentum, allowing strikes to flow from one to another in rapid succession. Many Pokédex entries mention that Hitmonlee massages its legs after battles to maintain elasticity, suggesting a degree of self-care and anatomical awareness uncommon among Pokémon. This ritualistic maintenance reinforces its disciplined, almost meditative personality. Hitmonlee's competitive history in the Pokémon games has been shaped by its high attack stat and access to strong risk-reward moves. In early generations, it was one of the hardest-hitting fighting-type Pokémon available, capable of crushing normal-type opponents with minimal effort. Its speed, while not extreme, was enough to allow it to outspeed many bulkier threats. As generations progressed, Hitmonlee gained access to new tools that revitalized its role, particularly Unburden, an ability that doubles its speed after consuming an item. This turned Hitmonlee into a surprisingly fast, deadly sweeper, capable of bursting through teams with ease once activated. Items such as normal gems or terrain seeds often triggered unburdened strategies, making Hitmonlee a fearsome presence in certain competitive environments. One of the most interesting aspects of its lore is Hitmonlee's relationship with Hitmonchan and Hitmontop. Together, they represent different facets of martial arts: kicking, punching, and rotational technique, while Hitmonchan embodies boxing precision, and Hitmontop represents capoeira-like spinning motions. Hitmonlee is the pure lower body specialist. The trio shares a unique evolutionary line, beginning with Tyrogue, but Hitmonlee's evolution condition, attack higher than defense, fits perfectly. Hitmonlee is the embodiment of offense. It forms when the young Tyrogue naturally leans toward aggressive, momentum-driven striking styles. This detail reinforces how Pokémon evolution is shaped not only by external stones or items, but also by internal traits and personal development. Hitmonlee's name references Bruce Lee, cementing the connection to martial arts mastery. In Japan, its name Sawamura references Tadashi Sawamura, a famous kickboxer known for his devastating kicks. These dual inspirations reflect how the Pokémon blends real-world martial arts influences from both Eastern and Western traditions. Few Pokémon have names tied so directly to real athletes, which speaks to the cultural impact Hitmonlee was designed to represent. Its presence in the Kanto Pokédex wasn't just to fill a fighting-type slot. It was to pay homage to discipline, physical excellence, and the beauty of controlled movement. In modern games like Scarlet and Violet, Hitmonlee remains a memorable part of the broader Pokémon legacy, even when not available in the regional Pokédex. Its unique silhouette, cylindrical legs, and iconic stretching animations keep it instantly recognizable. It's a Pokémon that doesn't require elemental flair to stand out. Its identity is strong because it's focused. Even children who don't fully grasp martial arts principles recognize something appealing in Hitmonlee's straightforward, kinetic design. It's the kind of Pokémon whose concept is so clear that it transcends game mechanics. Everyone immediately understands what Hitmonlee is. In the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon series, Hitmonlee's personality is portrayed with surprising depth. It is often depicted as stoic, thoughtful, and disciplined, offering wisdom or guidance rather than emotional outbursts. Its role in these stories highlights a common theme. Hitmonlee brings order to chaos. Whether leading rescue teams or participating in tournaments, it remains composed under pressure, reflecting the mental side of martial arts training. That portrayal fits beautifully with its overall character, a Pokémon who strikes hard and moves fast, but always with intention. Despite its intimidating design, Hitmonlee is known to form deep bonds with trainers who share its values. It responds well to individuals who demonstrate discipline, patience, and respect. It doesn't thrive under impulsive or reckless trainers, but flourishes with those who take time to understand its rhythm. Once bonded, Hitmonlee trains tirelessly, sometimes mirroring its trainers' exercise routines. Stories in the Pokémon world describe Hitmonlee practicing kicks alongside humans, its legs whispering through the air in perfect synchronization. These moments highlight that beneath the fierce combat exterior lies a Pokemon dedicated to improvement, cooperation, and trust. Hitmonlee's enduring appeal lies in how grounded it feels. It's fantastical. Yes, no real creature possesses legs that stretch like elastic bands, but it's rooted in familiar principles of sports, discipline, and athleticism. Many legendary or mythical Pokemon captivate players with cosmic power or ancient lore, but Hitmonlee fascinates for the opposite reason. It feels real. Players can imagine what training with a Hitmonlee might be like, how sparring sessions would unfold, or how watching its kicks in motion might leave fans speechless. This relatability, combined with its striking design, has cemented it as one of the most iconic fighting types of all time. Its depiction in merchandise also reflects its dynamic energy. Figures often feature Hitmonlee mid-kick, one leg extended impossibly far while the rest of its body remains centered and composed. Trading cards capture its sharp silhouettes and kicking arcs, often emphasizing the blur of movement that defines its battle style. Even plush versions maintain its upright, ready-to-strike posture, a reminder that Hitmonlee is always prepared. As the franchise continues to evolve, Hitmonlee remains an important reminder of Pokemon's roots, a blend of fantasy and real-world influences grounded in personality and storytelling. It's a Pokemon whose strength is earned, not given. A symbol of hard work, precision, and the power of pure technique. And whether encountered in the fighting dojo, through evolution, or in modern spin-offs, Hitmonlee continues to kick, quite literally, its way into Pokemon history. Sceptile has always stood apart from other grass-type Pokemon, not because of overwhelming brute force, but because of the way it channels precision, speed, and botanical mastery into a single, sleek form. Introduced in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire as the final evolution of Hoenn's grass-type starter, it quickly became known for its agility rather than its raw strength, redefining what a grass type could be. While most grass starters leaned into bulky, defensive, or support-focused designs, Sceptile arrived as something entirely new, a razor-fast, aerial-capable, blade-armed reptile that moved like a creature built to dominate the treetops of dense forests. Its design reflects the essence of a jungle predator, streamlined, lean, and meant to navigate vegetation at speeds few Pokemon can match. Sceptile embodies the spirit of the forest's upper canopy, where movement requires silence, precision, and split-second reactions rather than brute force. One of Sceptile's most iconic traits is its leaf blades, long, razor-sharp fronds extending from its arms. Unlike traditional grass-type attacks that rely on vines or petals, Sceptile's fighting style resembles a martial artist, delivering high-speed slashes that strike with surgical accuracy. When Sceptile uses Leaf Blade, the air itself seems to cut, and the Pokemon's movements become a blur. The attack isn't just powerful, it's symbolic. Leaf Blade became its signature move, permanently associated with Sceptile's swift, disciplined way of battling. Because of that, Sceptile's animation for the move in multiple games highlights quick footwork, spinning motions, and fluid arm strikes rather than brute force. Grass-type fans often credit Sceptile with elevating their favorite type into something sleek and agile, a contrast to the heavy or plant-rooted designs that dominated earlier generations. Sceptile's ecology-driven lore adds even more depth to its identity. Unlike many reptilian Pokemon, Sceptile spends much of its time in treetops rather than on the ground. It is described as a protector of forests, using its agility to move through branches without disturbing a single leaf. Its presence helps maintain the health of vegetation, with the seeds stored in its back fronds capable of revitalizing weakened plants. This blend of speed and caretaker behavior sets Sceptile apart from many other pseudo-predatory Pokemon. It's not simply a hunter, it is a guardian. The Pokédex even states that Sceptile becomes aggressive only when its forest is threatened, suggesting a territorial sense of responsibility rather than simple instinct. This has led some fans to view it as the sentinel of Hoenn's jungles, a role fitting for a final stage starter meant to represent harmony between humans and nature. Its physiology supports its arboreal lifestyle perfectly. Sceptile's limbs are long and flexible, capable of gripping branches with enhanced balance. The design of its feet, often overlooked, includes specialized traction pads that resemble those of real-world climbing reptiles. Its tail, large, leaf-shaped, and surprisingly heavy, acts as a counterbalance when maneuvering at high speeds, allowing Sceptile to pivot instantly or leap from tree to tree with impressive aerial control. These details make Sceptile one of the most biomechanically grounded Pokemon designs, showing how the creature might realistically adapt to dense forest environments. Even the small orbs embedded in its back, which are actually nutrient-filled seeds, tie into its botanical connection, reinforcing that Sceptile is not just a fast reptile, but a plant-infused organism capable of interacting with its environment in unique ways. In battle, Sceptile has long been known for its blistering speed stat, one of the highest among fully evolved grass types. This gave it a distinctive niche in competitive formats across several generations. While early game structures favored bulkier grass types, such as Venusaur, or defensive ones like Meganium, Sceptile offered a refreshing alternative, a fast special attacker that could strike first and hit hard. Moves like Giga Drain, Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, and Focus Blast made it versatile, while its move pool allowed it to surprise opponents with both physical and special sets. Perhaps one of the most unexpected developments came when Sceptile gained a dragon typing in its Mega Evolution, something fans had theorized for years due to its reptilian design. That change drastically altered its competitive identity, giving it access to powerful stab dragon moves and enhancing its already formidable speed. Mega Sceptile deserves its own moment of recognition because of how dramatically it expanded the Pokemon's lore and style. When Mega Evolutions debuted in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Mega Sceptile instantly stood out. Its design exaggerated everything that made the original compelling: longer leaf blades, sharper angles, and a more aerodynamic posture. But the most striking addition was its tail, which transformed into a massive, detachable projectile brimming with explosive botanical energy. The Pokédex explains that Mega Sceptile can fire this tail like a missile, and it regenerates instantly afterward. This behavior is modeled loosely after real-world lizards that drop their tails to escape predators, though Sceptile weaponizes the idea rather than using it defensively. Mega Sceptile also became one of the few grass dragon Pokemon in existence, granting it a sense of mysticism and elevating it to a higher status among type enthusiasts. Its response to electric-type moves, absorbing them for a speed boost, only added to its uniqueness, making it one of the flashiest yet thematically cohesive Mega Evolutions ever introduced. In the Hoenn anime, Sceptile became iconic through Ash's partner Trico, whose evolution arc remains one of the most beloved in the series. Trico's stubborn determination, Grovile's rebellious independence, and Sceptile's eventual maturity formed a narrative that fans deeply connected with. Sceptile ultimately became one of Ash's most powerful Pokemon, notably defeating legendary-level opponents and starring in numerous pivotal battles, including those against Frontier Brains. Its calm, stoic demeanor, combined with its fierce loyalty, created one of the strongest personality-driven portrayals a grass starter has ever received. That portrayal helped cement Sceptile as not just a starter evolution, but a character with depth and presence, influencing its long-term popularity. Sceptile's role in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series also contributed to its legacy. Often portrayed as an experienced explorer or leader figure, Sceptile's calm intelligence and commanding presence made it one of the standout, non-playable characters. Fans especially remember the Sceptile from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Sky, who played a central role in one of the game's saddest and most emotional character arcs. These portrayals elevate Sceptile beyond its battlefield statistics, giving it personality traits, wisdom, discipline, resilience that resonate strongly with players. Even from a purely visual perspective, Sceptile remains one of the most striking grass Pokemon ever designed. Its silhouette is instantly recognizable, tall, angular, with a vibrant green color palette and red highlights to evoke natural contrast. Grass-type Pokemon often risk blending visually with their environments, but Sceptile avoids that entirely. The leaf blades, seed pods, crest, and tail form a perfectly balanced design that feels aerodynamic, predatory, and regal all at once. It looks like a creature that evolved specifically to thrive in the ecosystem it protects. One charming detail about Sceptile is its relationship with sunlight. The Pokédex mentions that it becomes more energetic when exposed to plenty of light, storing solar energy that fuels both its physical agility and its botanical power. This characteristic, subtly reminiscent of real-world reptiles basking for warmth, ties together its plant and lizard traits. It's one of the rare Pokemon whose biology intentionally blends two kingdoms, flora and fauna, without feeling forced. Sceptile is not a plant with legs or a lizard with leaves. It is something entirely new, an intersection between concepts that works beautifully. Despite its predatory appearance, Sceptile's lore emphasizes that it rarely harms creatures smaller than itself. Instead, it watches over them, driving away threats that would disrupt the forest's balance. That guardian role fits into Hoenn's larger ecological themes, where each starter final evolution ties into environmental stewardship. Blaziken guards human settlements, Swampert protects coastlines, and Sceptile preserves forests. Together, they reflect a world built on coexistence, a far more subtle theme than many realize when playing through the games casually. Sceptile's popularity has remained consistent since its debut. While not always in the spotlight like Charizard or Greninja, Sceptile maintains a dedicated fan base who appreciate its unique design, battle utility, and deep lore. Its mega evolution reintroduced it to a new generation of fans, sparking a resurgence in competitive and casual interest alike. From speed-based strategies to fan art celebrating its anime portrayal, Sceptile has become one of the most respected grass-type Pokemon ever created. It stands as proof that grass starters can be sleek, powerful, and iconic without breaking away from ecological themes. In the end, Sceptile represents evolution in more ways than one. Not just the evolution of Trico, but the evolution of the grass-type archetype. It redefined expectations, broadened the category's identity, and became a symbol of precision, agility, and guardianship. Whether slashing through battles with Leaf Blade, leaping effortlessly between treetops, or standing watch over its forest home, Sceptile remains one of the most distinct and memorable Pokemon in the entire franchise. Its legacy is not one of overwhelming power, but of elegant mastery, a creature perfectly adapted to its world and beloved for exactly that reason. Gardevoir is one of those Pokemon that feels like it was designed from the beginning to be someone's favorite. A perfect blend of elegance, loyalty, and power wrapped in a calm, almost otherworldly presence. And from the moment Ralts and Kirlia first appeared in the Hoenn region, Gardevoir quickly became one of the most iconic psychic types in the entire franchise, later becoming even more beloved when it gained the fairy typing in Generation 6, adding a new layer of mystical charm to a Pokemon already known for its deep emotional bonds with its trainer and its dramatic, self-sacrificing protectiveness. Gardevoir's design is deliberately graceful, with a flowing, gown-like body, slender arms, and a head shaped almost like a helmet or veil, giving it the appearance of a dignified guardian rather than a traditional fighter. And the red spikes on its chest and back resemble a crystallized heart or emotional core, hinting strongly at its psychic and fairy theme of compassion and connection. Those spikes are often interpreted as focusing points for its powers, resonating with the powerful feelings it shares with its trainer. In the Pokédex, Gardevoir is repeatedly described as a Pokémon that will go to extreme lengths to protect the one it cares for most, even bending the very fabric of reality. And one of its most famous Pokédex notes says it can create a small black hole or distort dimensions to keep its trainer safe, which is an absolutely wild detail when you realize this seemingly gentle, ballet-like Pokemon is casually capable of manipulating gravity and space when its emotions demand it. Despite that overwhelming power, Gardevoir's temperament is calm and empathetic, and it is known as a Pokemon that can sense the feelings of its trainer and those around it, reacting not with aggression but with understanding, unless the situation truly calls for it. This emotional sensitivity connects back to its first form, Ralts, which only approaches people whose emotions feel warm and kind, suggesting Gardevoir is the final evolution of a relationship built entirely on trust and emotional safety. The progression from Ralts to Kirlia to Gardevoir also tells a subtle story about growth and transformation. As Ralts is small, shy, and almost hidden beneath its helmet-like head, Kirlia becomes more expressive and dancer-like, and Gardevoir finally blooms into a confident, fully realized guardian figure, as though the inner spirit of the Pokemon is gradually stepping out from behind its own emotional shell. Before Gallade existed, Gardevoir was the only fully evolved stage of the Ralts line, and for many players, it became the default ace psychic type of their Hoenn team, often taught strong moves like Psychic, Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, and later Moonblast, making it both a powerful sweeper and a surprisingly sturdy partner thanks to its special bulk and supportive move options. When Gallade was introduced in Sinnoh, the line branched into two possible directions, one more knight-like and physical in Gallade, and the other remaining ethereal and mystical in Gardevoir. And while Gallade leaned into the idea of a swordsman protector, Gardevoir still kept the role of emotional guardian and arcane spellcaster, giving trainers a choice between two different types of guardians that stem from the same emotional origin. In competitive play, Gardevoir has had several different eras of relevance. In earlier generations, it was a support-oriented psychic type that could use moves like Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave, and Calm Mind to wear down teams. And once the fairy type was introduced, its role expanded dramatically as it gained stab on fairy moves and a fantastic offensive combination against dark, dragon, and fighting types, allowing it to switch into threats like Hydreigon and Conkeldurr and retaliate with devastating moonblasts. Its Mega evolution in Generation 6, Mega Gardevoir, took that identity to the extreme, boosting its special attack to terrifying levels and giving it the ability Pixelate, which converted normal type moves into fairy type and enhanced their strength. turning Hyper Voice into a nuclear fairy attack that could hit through substitute and rip through teams in formats like singles and VGC alike, while still maintaining Gardevoir's graceful, elegant appearance with a more elaborate dress and flowing design that looked like a grand celestial gown. Even without Mega Evolution in later games, Gardevoir remains a fan-favorite special attacker and support Pokémon, capable of using Trick Room, Healing Wish, Wish, Screens, and other helpful moves, all while standing as a thematic representation of what it means to be a Pokémon that truly wants to protect its partner at all costs. Lore-wise, Gardevoir is often associated with future-seeing abilities and emotional resonance, and many depictions show it as a Pokémon that quietly stands beside its trainer in difficult moments, sensing anxiety or sadness, and trying, in its own way, to shield them not just from physical harm, but from emotional pain as well. This matches nicely with the fairy type's reputation for spiritual or emotional connection and the psychic type's association with mental power and intuition. In the anime, Gardevoir has appeared in multiple episodes and movies as both a powerful battler and a devoted companion, and one of the more memorable examples involves a Gardevoir that repeatedly protected its trainer and even other Pokémon from danger, teleporting them away from harm, wrapping them in psychic barriers, and even collapsing from exhaustion only after everyone was safe. These portrayals reinforce the idea that Gardevoir isn't just strong, it's selfless. Gardevoir's elegant design has made it extremely popular with artists, and it often appears in official and fan art standing on cliffs under night skies, floating gently above the ground with trails of psychic energy, or standing between its trainer and some looming danger, almost like a magical guardian spirit. The way its dress flares outward and its arms extend gives it a very theatrical, swan-like presence that feels symbolic of grace under pressure. Even the way it walks and moves in later 3D games has a soft, gliding quality to it, as though its feet barely make sound and psychic power helps support its steps. And small idle animations in games like Sword and Shield emphasize its composed nature as it holds its hands together or gently adjusts its posture like a polite, conscious being aware of its surroundings. In terms of battle roles, Gardevoir has often been used as a special wall breaker, and with stab psychic and fairy attacks, it threatens a huge range of Pokémon, especially when backed by Calm Mind boosts or choice items. Defensively, its dual typing gives it useful resistances to fighting, dragon, and psychic moves, though its physical defense is relatively low, which fits with its lore as an emotion-driven, magically protective Pokémon rather than a physically armored one. One of its signature moves, at least in spirit, is Hypnosis, combined with Dream Eater, or more commonly now with support moves, which plays into its mystical, almost hypnotic presence, and its ability Trace lets it copy an opponent's ability on switch-in, creating interesting tactical opportunities where Gardevoir can suddenly mirror, intimidate, flash fire, or other useful abilities and turn them against the opposing team. The alternative ability, Telepathy, shines in double battles, allowing Gardevoir to avoid damage from its partner's spread moves like Earthquake or Surf, reinforcing its supportive role in cooperative battle styles. This matches its lore of being hyper-aware of those around it and adjusting its position accordingly to keep others safe. Gardevoir has also shown up in the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon series as a deeply emotional and story-relevant Pokémon, often tied to prophetic dreams, fated journeys, and partner bonds that transcend normal relationships, and it tends to appear in these stories as a gentle, guiding figure with a tragic or noble past, which has only further cemented its image as a Pokemon closely associated with fate and deep emotional stakes. Later games gave Gardevoir access to fairy-type moves like Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam, which not only boosted its battle effectiveness, but visually enhanced its sense of being a radiant, star-like presence with animations of swirling moonlight and twinkling energy that make its attacks feel beautifully destructive, like a calm, luminous storm. As a fairy type, Gardevoir naturally became an important answer to powerful dragon types like Salamence, Garchomp, and Hydreigon. And in many metagames, it fulfilled the role of a dragon slayer that could also threaten fighting and dark types, giving balanced teams a strong reason to include it not just for lore and aesthetics, but for raw, competitive utility. In the trading card game, Gardevoir has appeared in many forms, including powerful EX, GX, and V cards, often featuring artwork that leans heavily into its mystical, protective vibe. And one particularly popular card is Gardevoir GX from the Sun and Moon era, which combines strong fairy-type moves with elegant art of Gardevoir reaching out amid shimmering light, embodying kindness and strength in equal measure. Gardevoir's popularity in TCG art frequently places it alongside trainers or other Pokemon in gentle, story-driven scenes rather than pure action shots, further emphasizing its role as a partner and guardian rather than a lone fighter. Its mega forms and alternate prints often highlight swirling psychic energy and dress-like shapes that make it look almost like a celestial bride of power, which has become a defining visual theme for the species. Thematically, Gardevoir also carries subtle hints of the archetype of a knight in magical clothing, even if Galladay took the literal blade-wielding form, because Gardevoir's lore still revolves around sworn protection, sacrifice, and emotional loyalty. Much like legends of knights and guardian spirits devoted entirely to a chosen person or cause, and its willingness to risk everything, even generating miniature black holes, gives it one of the most dramatic stakes of any non-box art Pokemon. Even small Pokédex details, like mentioning that it uses the power of gravity to float and to hold enemies in place, hint at Gardevoir wielding forces far beyond normal comprehension, and yet it never comes across as sinister or wild. Its control and calm demeanor suggest that, no matter how massive its power becomes, it never loses sight of its purpose: to protect, to support, and to stand between danger and the person it has chosen. In contests and showcase-like situations across the games and anime, Gardevoir naturally fits the role of a star performer, with its flowing shape, elegant animations, and bright, sparkling attack effects, making it perfect for beauty and cool categories. Moves like Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Moonblast can be choreographed into gorgeous routines that showcase both its strength and its grace, something many coordinators and performers in-universe have taken advantage of. Its psychic fairy typing also lets it tap into both the mystical and the whimsical, making it a favorite among trainers who like teams with a softer, more story-driven aesthetic rather than a purely intimidating or monstrous vibe. Gardevoir fits easily on teams themed around empathy, dreams, or celestial motifs, standing beside Pokemon like Togekiss, Clefable, or Alcremie as part of a gentle but extremely powerful core. Some fans theorize that Gardevoir's apparent dress is actually part of its body rather than clothing, forming from its psychic energy, solidifying into a physical shell, and this would explain why its Mega Evolution's dress grows more elaborate as its power and emotional intensity increase, almost like armor made from pure feeling. This idea also fits with the way its arms and hands are relatively thin and almost secondary to the main shape of its torso. suggesting its real strength is never in physical limbs, but in the emotional and psychic energy radiating from its core. Despite its popularity and often soft visual presentation, Gardevoir is undeniably one of the more terrifyingly powerful Pokémon in pure lore terms, and that contrast between appearance and ability is part of what makes it so memorable. It's a reminder that kindness and gentleness don't exclude immense strength, and that the calmest presence in the room might be the one capable of moving mountains, stopping time, or bending gravity if its loved ones are threatened. Across generations, media, and formats, Gardevoir has consistently represented loyalty, emotional intelligence, and mystical power, standing as one of the clearest examples of Pokémon designed not just to look cool, but to embody a specific kind of relationship between trainer and Pokémon, one built on trust so deep that the Pokémon would literally warp reality to keep that bond intact, glowing softly as it stands between its partner and the rest of the world, a graceful guardian in a flowing gown of psychic light. Hariyama is one of those Pokémon that immediately communicates its entire personality through its stance alone, wide-legged, grounded, palms forward, and radiating an energy that feels both intimidating and strangely friendly. Designed after traditional Japanese sumo wrestlers, Hariyama embodies power through stability rather than speed, force through weight rather than sharpness. Everything about its design, from its broad shoulders to its enormous open hands, is built to convey physical contact, grappling strength, and the art of pushing back with overwhelming momentum. When players first encountered it in Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, Hariyama stood out immediately because its silhouette was so different from the sleek, fighting-type designs that came before it. Machamp flexed, Hitmonlee extended, Hitmonchan poised, but Hariyama planted itself firmly like a living wall, ready to absorb whatever the world could throw at it. The true roots of Hariyama's inspiration lie in the traditions of sumo, a cultural sport that emphasizes more than just brute strength. In sumo, respect, ritual, discipline, and body control all matter just as much as size or power, and Hariyama incorporates those concepts beautifully. Its large frame represents force, but its wide stance reflects balance, the kind of balance that can withstand blows without shifting an inch. Many entries in the Pokédex emphasize that Hariyama trains by pushing enormous objects, from trucks to steel beams to giant logs, not to destroy them, but to refine its strength and center of gravity. It practices through repetition, using deliberate movement to cultivate mastery. This places Hariyama among the Pokémon most explicitly connected to cultural martial arts, making it both a fighter and a guardian in the Hoenn region. Hariyama's personality is surprisingly friendly despite its intimidating presence. In lore and side material, it is often depicted as cheerful, supportive, and encouraging, the sort of fighting type who wants others to train with enthusiasm rather than fear. Even its training habits with other Pokémon revolve around assistance more than dominance. It will spar gently with weaker partners to build their confidence, but when it stands against stronger opponents, it becomes serious and focused. Its emotional adaptability mirrors real-world martial artists who understand when to use restraint and when to push limits. Trainers who raise Hariyama often describe it as a protector, one that places its body between danger and its partners without hesitation. Its evolution from Makuhita represents a powerful thematic shift. Makuhita trains constantly, depicted as a Pokémon that endures hardship and toughens its body through sheer repetition. It evolves into Hariyama, not by growing taller, but by widening, becoming sturdier, taking up space in a way that symbolizes earned confidence. In Japanese martial arts philosophy, rooting oneself, becoming grounded through the feet and core, is an essential skill, and Hariyama embodies this principle perfectly. It is a Pokemon built not for speed or acrobatics, but for impact, pressure, and resilience. That evolutionary journey, from scrappy beginner to seasoned champion, makes Hariyama one of the most well-realized fighting-type concepts in the franchise. In the games, Hariyama plays a fascinating tactical role. Its HP stat is enormous, allowing it to tank hits that would flatten other fighting types. Combined with moves like Belly Drum, Close Combat, Force Palm, Knockoff, and Whirlwind, Hariyama becomes a versatile threat that can either dish out devastating damage or disrupt an opponent's strategy entirely. In competitive play, Hariyama is often used as a countermeasure to Pokemon who rely heavily on items because its access to Fake Out and Knockoff creates immediate pressure. Meanwhile, its Guts ability, boosting attack when afflicted with status, turns what would normally be a disadvantage into a terrifying offensive boost. Flame Orb Hariyama sets, which activate Guts by deliberately burning itself, became iconic in various meta formats because they allowed Hariyama to hit harder than many fully evolved pseudo-legendaries. Lore entries describe Hariyama as a Pokemon capable of stopping moving vehicles simply by planting its feet and pushing. This detail emphasizes both its physical strength and its mastery of leverage. In some regions, construction crews use Hariyama to help shift heavy supplies or stabilize scaffolding during major building projects, since its wide stance and raw force make it a natural anchor. In Hoenn, where natural disasters like volcanic eruptions and large storms are common, Hariyama serves as a valuable ally for emergency response teams. They can clear debris, lift crumbled rock, and even prevent collapsing structures from giving way long enough for people and Pokemon to escape. These real-world integrations give Hariyama a grounded presence in the Pokemon universe, making it feel like a creature that truly coexists with human society. In Pokemon Colosseum, Hariyama plays a memorable role as one of the early shadow Pokemon encountered. This version of Hariyama appears under the control of Cypher, stripped of its friendly nature and driven into aggression by shadow corruption. Its size and power make it one of the first challenges in that game where players must confront the difference between a Pokemon's natural temperament and what happens when its emotional core is tampered with. Once purified, the Hariyama regains its gentle, steadfast personality, reinforcing the theme that strength without balance can be dangerous, while strength with compassion is something altogether different. Hariyama's relationship to its environment is deeply connected to its training habits. It prefers warm climates where muscles stay loose and the ground is soft enough for footwork practice. Some wild Hariyama live in groups resembling training dojos, sparring peacefully and guiding Makuhita through daily routines. These gatherings often include rhythmic stomping that carries through nearby valleys. Legends say that ancient warriors once followed these vibrations to locate Hariyama camps, hoping to study their natural methods of stability and martial movement. Although only folklore, the idea fits perfectly with Hariyama's thematic design, a Pokemon whose strength inspires imitation and respect. Its enormous hands serve multiple purposes beyond striking. They can create sudden blasts of wind just by swinging forward, a nod to sumo palm thrust techniques. These wind bursts are strong enough to knock down small trees or stagger opponents several meters away. In the anime, Hariyama has been shown using its palms to block incoming projectiles, flatten massive boulders, and even smother flames by creating controlled wind patterns. The versatility of its hands reflects its mastery of non-lethal combat styles, making it a Pokemon that can neutralize threats safely when necessary. Hariyama's role in the Hoenn Pokemon League is iconic. Brawly, the Dewford gym leader, uses a Makuhita that evolves into Hariyama only after defeating the player, a beautiful piece of storytelling where the Pokemon grows through actual combat experience rather than leveling alone. In Emerald version, this Makuhita evolves sooner, showcasing Hariyama earlier and emphasizing Brawly's theme of strength through disciplined training. The contrast between the player's team and Brawly's Hariyama underscores the importance of patience, focus, and physical conditioning in the world of martial arts. Another important aspect of Hariyama's lore is its relationship to weight. In sumo wrestling, mass is a crucial element, and Hariyama reflects this by participating in push competitions, where wild groups test strength by shoving against large, immovable objects. But unlike many heavy Pokemon who rely exclusively on weight, Hariyama combines mass with refined technique. It shifts its center of gravity fluidly, pushing at angles that maximize leverage. Trainers who work with Hariyama must learn that weight itself is not enough. Balance matters just as much. Many NPC trainers in the games mention watching Hariyama train to better understand this philosophy. Despite its size, Hariyama is surprisingly expressive. In animations and artwork, it often smiles, pumps its fists, or claps in approval of others' efforts. This sense of camaraderie makes it one of the more charismatic fighting-type Pokemon. Even in intense battles, Hariyama carries a spirit of sportsmanship. It respects strong opponents and encourages weaker ones. This mixture of kindness and power has earned it a reputation as a gentle giant, the kind of Pokemon children feel safe around, despite its ability to uproot trees with a single palm strike. Hariyama's coloration and design elements also carry meaningful symbolism. Its dark blue hands and feet resemble traditional Kisho Mawashi aprons worn by sumo wrestlers, while the wide yellow sash hints at ceremonial belts used during training rituals. These visual cues tie it directly to the cultural heritage from which it draws inspiration. Meanwhile, its round body shape reflects the training philosophy of maintaining a low center of gravity, while its forehead band suggests focus and discipline. Small details like these make Hariyama one of the most culturally rich, fighting-type Pokemon ever created. In terms of longevity, Hariyama remains a fan favorite in Hoenn-based stories and remakes. Its ability to stand against forces like earthquakes and hurricanes makes it a protector figure in fictional narratives. In Pokemon adventures, Hariyama is often depicted as fiercely loyal and incredibly brave, charging into danger to protect others. These narrative portrayals emphasize what has always made Hariyama special, not just its power, but its heart. Even its shiny form tells a story. With purple hands, darker pants, and an orange sash, shiny Hariyama still retains its sumo-inspired look but adds a brighter, more festive palette. Some fans interpret this as symbolizing ceremonial attire for special competitions, adding another layer of personality to the Pokemon. Whether intentional or coincidental, it gives shiny Hariyama a distinguished presence. When you look at Hariyama as a whole, its cultural origins, its gentle personality, its immense power, and its role in the Pokemon universe, it becomes clear why it stands out so much. It represents strength with purpose, discipline with compassion, and power rooted in peace. Hariyama is not a fighter because it loves violence. It's a fighter because it respects the art of challenge. It pushes, not to dominate, but to test itself and grow. And for trainers who appreciate dedication, Hariyama becomes far more than a Pokemon. It becomes a teacher, Mawile is one of the most fascinating Pokemon ever created because it blends innocence and danger so seamlessly that it feels like a creature pulled directly out of folklore. Introduced in Generation 3, Mawile immediately stood out among Hoenn's roster for its deceptive appearance. At first glance, it looks like a small, polite, harmless steel fairy, but its true threat lies behind it: the massive, steel-jawed mouth that snaps like a trap forged in a dark cavern. This contrast is intentional, inspired directly by the Japanese myth of the Futakuchi Onna, a woman who appears normal until a second mouth is revealed in the back of her head. Game Freak leaned into this duality to create a Pokemon that is simultaneously cute and terrifying, perfectly blending fairy tale charm with the sharpness of a weapon. Mawile's Steel. Fairy typing, introduced later when Fairy became a recognized type in Generation 6, gave it one of the most effective and strategically flexible combinations in the game. Before Fairy typing existed, Mawile was underappreciated, a Steel type with limited offensive presence and low stats that struggled to stay relevant. But everything changed in Pokemon X and Y, when both the Fairy type and Mega Evolution arrived at the same time. Mawile went from one of the weakest Pokemon in Generation 3 to one of the most dangerous creatures ever introduced. It is one of the biggest power creep transformations in Pokemon history, the equivalent of turning a decorative dagger into a legendary sword overnight. Even before Mega Evolution, Mawile had a unique charm rooted in deception. Its Pokédex entries consistently highlight the fact that it lures opponents in with its small, timid appearance, only to clamp down with that giant jaw the moment they let their guard down. The jaw is not actually a functioning mouth, but rather a hardened growth made of iron-like hair capable of exerting force, rivaling industrial clamps. Scientists within the Pokemon world theorize that Mawile's mouth is an evolutionary tactic developed to frighten predators, much like how some real-world animals develop eye spots or false faces to intimidate attackers. But Mawile takes the concept even further. Its false face is a legitimate weapon and one of the most potent natural traps found in the Hoenn region. The juxtaposition between its polite front and vicious rear adds depth to Mawile's personality. In the anime and manga, Mawile is frequently portrayed as affectionate but mischievous, often causing trouble unintentionally due to its deceptive biology. In the anime episode Once in a Mawile falls in love with a Ludicolo, showing just how expressive and emotional this creature can be. It isn't defined solely by its jaws. Even though they are its most iconic feature, Mawile also has a playful, somewhat dramatic personality that makes it memorable even in a cast of hundreds. But it wasn't until Mega Evolution that Mawile truly cemented its legacy. Mega Mawile is infamous, the type of Pokemon competitive battlers still reference when discussing overwhelming power. When Mega Mawile was introduced, it gained the ability Huge Power, which doubles its attack stat, effectively giving it one of the highest damage outputs in the entire franchise. Combined with its excellent typing, impressive defensive stats, and access to moves like Play Rough, Sucker Punch, Iron Head, and Fire Fang, Mega Mawile instantly became one of the most feared Pokemon in all competitive play. It was so overwhelmingly dominant in singles formats that it was banned from standard Smogon tiers and classified as an Uber Pokemon, a place reserved for legends, mythicals, and the most broken Mega Evolutions in existence. The ban wasn't a surprise to anyone who used Mega Mawile even once. Its ability to both tank hits and deliver devastating blows made it feel like two Pokemon crammed into one body. Its massive jaw evolved into two enormous horn-like structures in its Mega form, each split into intimidating, spiked crescents that turn the once cute Mawile into something that looks like a steel demon. This shift from deceptive charm to outright intimidation created one of the most effective visual transformations of any Mega Evolution. Mega Mawile doesn't just get stronger, it becomes the nightmare the original Mawile only hinted at. Even outside of its Mega form, Mawile has earned a passionate fan base thanks to its unique design and folklore roots. The Futakuchi Onna inspiration is clear, but Game Freak added enough original personality that it doesn't feel derivative. Instead, Mawile feels like a Pokemon that could genuinely exist in the Hoenn region's ecology, a creature that evolved deception as both a defense and hunting strategy. And while many folkloric Pokemon lean heavily into the creepy side of myth, Mawile strikes a balance between spooky and adorable, making it appealing to fans who enjoy dual-natured designs. Its fairy typing added even more depth to its gameplay role. Mawile became an effective supporter and tank even without Mega Evolution, thanks to moves like Intimidate, Pain Split, and Sword Stance. In doubles formats, especially VGC, Mawile's utility skyrocketed. Supporting moves, strong priority attacks, and synergy with Trick Room teams allowed it to play multiple roles depending on team structure. Its versatility kept it relevant long after Mega Evolutions were removed from the main series games. Mawile's lore deepens further when you explore how it interacts with other Pokemon species. In Hoenn, it is known to compete with Pokemon like Sableye and Absol for cave territories, though not due to aggression, rather due to resource overlap. Mawile prefers to inhabit areas with reflective minerals, theorized to help camouflage its jawmouth in low light. It is also strangely fearless around larger Pokemon, likely because its deceptive appearance discourages predators from attacking it directly. This behavior mirrors real animals that use bluff tactics, further grounding Mawile in biological realism. In terms of cultural significance, Mawile has appeared in multiple spin-offs. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Mawile is depicted as curious and investigative, often taking interest in ruins or artifacts. This portrayal aligns well with its clever nature. Mawile is often depicted as more intelligent than its size implies. The Mystery Dungeon series even references its biting ability in comedic ways, making it a standout character among smaller Pokemon. Despite its steel jaws, Mawile expresses emotion primarily through its real face, not the maw behind it. That delicate contrast, expressive front, monstrous back, is what gives the Pokemon so much personality. Artists often portray Mawile looking cute and kind, while the jaw behind it snarls, smirks, or chomps with mischievous intent. This dual expression theme has made Mawile a favorite subject in fan art, plush merchandise, and collectible cards. Speaking of the Pokemon TCG, Mawile has received several beautiful cards over the years, including full arts and GX forms. Many artworks highlight its deceptive charm, showing the foreground Mawile smiling sweetly while the jaw behind it prepares to strike. One of the standout designs is the Mawile GX card from Sun and Moon, Team Up, where the playful yet sinister duality is expressed perfectly. Collectors appreciate Mawile cards not for raw strength, but for artistic value and memorable personality. Mawile's interactions with other fairy tale-inspired Pokemon also add interesting depth. The fairy typing connects it to creatures like Granbull, Clefable, and Gardevoir, but Mawile stands apart because its mythological inspiration is far more sinister. While most fairy types represent protection, magic, or emotional purity, Mawile represents trickery, a fairy tale creature whose sweetness hides danger. This makes it one of the most complex fairy types in Pokemon lore, occupying a niche closer to folklore tricksters than benevolent spirits. To this day, Mawile remains one of the most beloved steel types in the entire franchise, despite lacking evolutions or regional variants. Its design is timeless, simple enough to remain iconic, complex enough to stay captivating. Few Pokemon embody contrast as brilliantly as Mawile. Small yet strong, cute yet fearsome, friendly yet deceptive, fairy tale yet feral. And even though Mega Evolution is no longer a feature in modern games, the legacy of Mega Mawile persists as a symbol of one of the biggest power jumps any Pokemon has ever received. The jaw that once served as a warning suddenly became the centerpiece of one of the most feared competitive threats in Pokemon history. And even without that mega form, Mawile continues to captivate fans with its mythological roots and unforgettable personality. Whether mischievously charming or truly terrifying, Mawile remains a shining example of how creative and layered Pokemon designs can be. Sharpedo is one of those Pokemon whose design communicates its entire personality in an instant, a creature built for velocity, aggression, and streamlined brutality. Known as the brutal Pokemon, Sharpedo has a reputation across the oceans of Hoenn as a living torpedo, a predator shaped like a missile with jaws powerful enough to shear through iron hulls. Its famous silhouette, a compact yet muscular shark-like form with a jagged dorsal fin and a permanent scowl, captures everything about its nature: relentless motion, raw instinct, and explosive strength condensed into a body built for speed. Unlike real sharks, Sharpedo has no tail fin, relying entirely on jet propulsion from pressurized water expelled through the rear of its body. This anatomical detail alone sets it apart from almost every aquatic Pokemon, giving it unmatched acceleration in short bursts and allowing it to outmaneuver even the swiftest trainers trying to navigate Hoenn's vast seas. Sharpedo's lore reflects this intensity. Sailors in Hoenn describe entire schools of Sharpedo moving like coordinated storms through the water, leaving trails of devastation behind them. These swarms aren't aimless. They operate with surprising cohesion, circling and overwhelming prey with terrifying efficiency. Their feeding frenzies are legendary. Once the scent of blood hits the water, Sharpedo can become near unstoppable, its instincts taking complete control. While this sounds fearsome, it's exactly what makes the Pokemon intriguing. Sharpedo, unlike most shark-inspired species, balances its ferocity with moments of eerie stillness. Divers claim that Sharpedo sometimes watch from a distance, perfectly motionless despite lacking a tail, as if calculating whether a target is worth pursuing. This blend of violence and intelligence reinforces Sharpedo's place as one of Hoenn's most fascinating marine predators. Despite its dangerous nature, Sharpedo is deeply respected in regions where ocean travel is essential. In some coastal Hoenn communities, Sharpedo carvings adorn docks and fishing huts, symbolizing the raw force of the sea, unpredictable, powerful, but deserving of respect rather than fear. Trainers willing to raise a Carvanha into Sharpedo often speak of the drastic behavioral shift that occurs during evolution. Carvanha is chaotic, vicious, and impatient, attacking recklessly and often getting itself hurt in the process. But once it evolves, Sharpedo becomes focused. Its aggression becomes purposeful, its movements economical. It fights not because it is angry, but because its instincts push it toward decisive, efficient action. This maturity is something experienced water-type trainers often praise. Sharpedo is not brainless carnage, but controlled destruction. Sharpedo's abilities reflect that identity. Rough Skin punishes physical attackers, dealing damage whenever an opponent makes direct contact. It's more than a passive effect. It symbolizes the abrasive, almost armor-like texture of Sharpedo's hide, which is said to be rougher than sandpaper. According to the Pokédex, its skin is so coarse that it was once used in crafting tools, and mishandling Sharpedo could shred human hands instantly. Its body is covered in tiny denticles that reduce drag in the water, enabling unprecedented speed. When Sharpedo surges forward, these microscopic ridges cut water resistance dramatically, allowing the Pokémon to reach velocities that rival high-powered boats. In battle, this ability translates to explosive offense rather than stamina. Sharpedo is a sprinter, devastating in the opening seconds, capable of overwhelming an opponent before they fully grasp what's happening. This speed becomes even more prominent in Sharpedo's Mega Evolution. When Mega Sharpedo was introduced in Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it became clear that Game Freak intended to elevate the Pokémon's ferocity to its absolute extreme. Mega Sharpedo's body becomes longer, covered in additional crystalline spikes reminiscent of sharpened gemstones. These aren't decorative, they represent the buildup of battle energy in its dermal tissues. Mega Sharpedo's Pokédex entries even state that these spikes form due to aggressiveness accumulated over a lifetime, meaning the Pokémon becomes increasingly dangerous the older it gets. Its engine-like propulsion intensifies, and its jaw strength, already impressive, becomes powerful enough to crush submarines. If regular Sharpedo is a missile, Mega Sharpedo is a battleship shell designed to strike with maximum force in a single, devastating impact. Of course, Sharpedo's intensity isn't without drawbacks. Its lack of a tail fin limits its ability to maintain long-distance travel. It tires quickly and is forced to rely on ambush tactics or short, decisive bursts of movement. This biological limitation has shaped its hunting style. Sharpedo hides in shadows near coral reefs or rocky outcrops, waiting for prey to approach. Then, with a single rapid thrust, it attacks. Trainers who have battled wild Sharpedo in Hoenn currents often describe the creature as appearing out of nowhere, hitting with such sudden velocity that even strong Pokémon can be overwhelmed before they mount a defense. This is why traveling by surf in Sharpedo-populated areas becomes a risky endeavor. The Pokémon are drawn to movement and sound, especially from unfamiliar watercraft. In competitive battling, Sharpedo found its niche with abilities like Speed Boost, which transformed it into one of the most threatening sweepers in certain formats. Each passing turn grants it increased speed, turning its already dangerous offense into something unstoppable if left unchecked. Paired with its high attack power and access to devastating moves like Crunch, Ice Fang, Waterfall, and the fearsome Protect Sweep playstyle, Sharpedo quickly earned a reputation as a glass cannon capable of ripping through unprepared teams. Trainers love using Sharpedo not just because of its numbers, but because it feels thrilling. Every turn is a gamble, every hit a rush of momentum, the entire match teetering on the edge of whether Sharpedo survives the initial setup. Its design pulls from both biological and symbolic influences. The star-shaped pattern on its head resembles a brand or crest, inspiring speculation about Sharpedo's possible cultural significance in ancient Hoenn. Some believe the marking represents the Pokémon's role as a sea guardian, a creature that maintains equilibrium in ocean ecosystems by keeping certain populations in check. Others believe the star shape echoes the jagged patterns of Hoenn's turbulent volcanic geography, making Sharpedo not just a marine predator, but an embodiment of the region's wild, untamed spirit. Carvings found in underwater Hoenn ruins depict Sharpedo alongside Whiscash, Tentacruel, and Wailord, suggesting that early ocean cultures may have viewed these species as divine or sacred symbols of the sea's emotions. Wrath, mystery, vastness, and depth. In the Pokemon anime, Sharpedo's portrayal maintains this intimidating presence but adds nuance. Despite its ferocity, Sharpedo isn't depicted as inherently malicious. In episodes where schools of Sharpedo appear, their aggression is shown as defensive rather than wanton destruction. When injured or threatened, the species becomes chaotic, but when approached calmly or helped, the aggression subsides. This demonstrates that Sharpedo's behavior, like that of real-world sharks, stems from instinct, not cruelty. The anime even shows Sharpedo forming alliances with certain trainers, especially those who understand the ocean's rhythm. These calmer portrayals help frame Sharpedo not as a mindless monster, but as a creature with depth and dignity. Sharpedo also appears throughout various spin-off games, each highlighting different aspects of its nature. In the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, Sharpedo often occupies roles that require stealth, pursuit, or intimidation. In Pokemon Snap, its speed is emphasized visually, often appearing as a blur in the water until the player manages to capture a moment of stillness. In Pokemon Go, Sharpedo became infamous in raids for its massive attack stat paired with incredibly low bulk, again reinforcing the identity of a high-impact, zero-stamina predator that hits with startling force but fades quickly under pressure. The species also plays a notable role in Hoenn's environmental storytelling. On certain beaches, Sharpedo teeth wash ashore, collected by beachgoers who treat them as rare keepsakes. In some towns, surfboards decorated with Sharpedo patterns symbolize good luck in navigating dangerous waters. Even the Team Aqua submarines in Pokemon Emerald and its remakes resemble Sharpedo, highlighting the Pokemon's cultural influence within the region. To an organization obsessed with the ocean, Sharpedo represents the ultimate marine warrior, swift, ruthless, and perfectly adapted for underwater dominance. Sharpedo's bite force is its most defining physical trait. Pokédex entries consistently describe it as powerful enough to tear through metal, concrete, and thick hull plating. Scientists in the Pokemon world theorize that Sharpedo's jaw muscles evolved to compensate for its lack of a tail. Because it cannot rely on long pursuits, it must end battles instantly. This evolutionary pressure resulted in one of the strongest bites in the entire Pokemon ecosystem. Trainers are warned never to allow Sharpedo to latch onto objects during agitation. Once it bites, it locks its jaw in place with immense pressure, refusing to release until the target is destroyed. Its emotional behavior also adds complexity. Though Sharpedo is fierce, it becomes fiercely loyal to trainers who manage to tame it. This loyalty doesn't manifest through affection like many Pokemon. Sharpedo rarely nuzzles, cuddles, or expresses traditional friendliness. Instead, it protects through presence. It circles its trainer during ocean travel, positions itself between threats, and reacts instantly to danger. Those who have raised Sharpedo often learn to appreciate its unique expression of loyalty, not soft, but strong, not warm, but vigilant. Despite its ferocity, Sharpedo faces ecological threats. Pollution in the oceans affects its ability to navigate, and overfishing of its natural prey can force Sharpedo closer to human settlements. Some conservationists in Hoenn argue for the preservation of certain marine areas to maintain Sharpedo breeding grounds and prevent population imbalance. Their efforts paint Sharpedo not as a villain, but as a creature deserving ecological respect. When Sharpedo Mega evolves, its aggression increases, but so does its pride. Trainers who bond with Mega Sharpedo often describe a sense of shared fury, a powerful emotional surge that must be directed carefully. Mega Sharpedo channels all its stored aggression into raw power, but its trainer must remain calm to prevent it from overexerting itself. This dynamic reflects the deep relationship required for mega evolution. Even the most violent instinct can be guided by trust. Sharpedo's role in competitive formats waxes and wanes with each generation, yet its identity stays the same. It is always a threat, never subtle, never passive, always pushing toward decisive victories. It forces players to think differently, valuing timing over brute endurance. That alone has made Sharpedo beloved by those who enjoy unpredictability and decisive gameplay. At the end of the day, Sharpedo's enduring appeal lies in its duality. It is ruthless yet loyal, explosive yet calculated, terrifying yet beautiful in motion. The ocean, for many, represents the unknown, deep, dark, powerful, and Sharpedo embodies that perfectly. It reminds trainers that the sea is not an enemy, but a force to respect. And within that force swims a Pokemon whose roar is silent, whose light is the glint of moon on water, and whose strength is as sudden and unstoppable as a wave crashing against stone. Flygon has always stood out as one of Hoenn's most imaginative designs, combining elements of desert mythology, ancient predators, and mysterious spirits into a single sleek Pokemon that feels both familiar and otherworldly. Known as the Mystic Pokemon, Flygon carries an identity shaped from wind, sand, and illusion, earning nicknames like the Spirit of the Desert from travelers who swear they've heard music-like sounds echoing across dunes just moments before the creature appears. In many ways, Flygon embodies the romance of harsh, remote landscapes, an elegant figure gliding effortlessly above shifting sand, guiding or deceiving wanderers depending on its own whim or curiosity. Its presence in Hoenn is subtle but unforgettable, a living story woven through vast stretches of sun-scorched terrain. Flygon begins life as Trapinch, a Pokemon famous for its massive jaws and unwavering patience. Unlike many other evolutionary lines, Trapinch spends the earliest part of its life without the ability to see well or move efficiently. Instead, it builds its strength underground, waiting quietly inside funnel-shaped sand pits until prey wanders too close. This early life adaptation creates a stark contrast with Flygon's final form. Few Pokemon undergo such a dramatic functional shift, transforming from an ambush predator fixed to the ground into a swift aerial guardian of the desert skies. When Trapinch evolves into Vibrava, the middle stage gains sound-based abilities through wing vibrations, a foreshadowing of the harmonic properties that help define Flygon later on. Upon reaching Flygon's final form, everything clicks into place in a way that feels almost symbolic. The signature green and red goggles over its eyes are not decorative. They protect Flygon's vision from the endless sandstorms it both creates and traverses. Its wings generate powerful gales when they flap, stirring sand and dust into swirling storms that Flygon can fly within effortlessly. These storms mask its approach, giving it a near-mythical reputation among desert dwellers who only glimpse shapes within shifting clouds. Because of this behavior, ancient desert cultures believed Flygon to be a supernatural entity, an omen of either salvation or illusion depending on the stories passed down. Flygon's association with music is more than poetic metaphor. When its wings beat rapidly, the thin membranes vibrate at frequencies that resemble soft singing or distant flute melodies. Researchers believe these sounds help send signals to other Flygon or temporarily distract predators and prey. In Pokemon folklore, hearing Flygon's song is considered a good omen, often interpreted as the desert itself offering protection from heat and danger. Some travelers describe this sound as calming and hypnotic, powerful enough to make harsh desert winds feel less intimidating. Flygon's unique typing Ground and Dragon gives it a niche identity that sets it apart from other regional dragons. Most dragons are tied to mountains, storms, forests, or mythic power. Flygon, in contrast, is tied to sand, survival, and endurance. It thrives in harsh environments that few other dragons can tolerate, using its ground typing to sense vibrations beneath the earth and anticipate threats. This also gives it an unexpected resistance profile compared to traditional dragons, letting it shrug off electric attacks and battle effectively in climates that would overwhelm more fragile species. Many trainers underestimate how versatile Flygon can be. Its multi-terrain adaptability allows it to function as both a speedy aerial attacker and a tactical ground-based fighter. Its move pool reinforces this diversity. Flygon can learn attacks like Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Fire Punch, U-Turn, Roost via transfer in earlier generations, and a range of coverage moves that allow it to fit seamlessly onto many team compositions. Competitive players often describe Flygon as a Swiss Army knife, never the most overwhelmingly powerful option in any single category, but consistently useful and adaptable, capable of filling gaps that other dragons cannot. For many generations, its ability to use moves like Defog, Stealth Rock, and U-Turn made it a reliable utility Pokémon in formats that required flexible roles. Despite its popularity, Flygon carries one of the most well-known what-if stories in Pokémon fan culture, the long-standing wish for a mega evolution that never materialized. During the development of Pokémon X and Y, Flygon was indeed considered for a mega form, but the designers struggled to create a satisfying new design due to creative block, an unusual development anecdote that has since become legendary among fans. The idea that a Pokémon so beloved was held back only by artistic difficulty has ironically fueled even more affection for it. To this day, fans regularly create Mega Flygon concepts with designs inspired by glass dragonflies, crystalline wings, sand spirits, or desert mirages. The absence of a Mega feels like an incomplete chapter, but one that fans have embraced as part of Flygon's mystique. Flygon's ecology suggests a solitary predator with a keen sense of territory. It avoids unnecessary conflict, using its ability to fly above sandstorms as both defense and advantage. Its wings allow it to maneuver through turbulent winds, making it nearly impossible for predators to pursue. When Flygon chooses to hide, it can blend into storm clouds almost perfectly, its silhouette distorted by swirling dust. Only the faint hum of its wings gives it away. These behaviors have led to thousands of mistaken ghost sightings in Hoenn's desert regions. Many travelers claim they saw a phantom figure moving through the haze long before they ever learned about Flygon. Flygon is also a protector of desert ecosystems. It preys on pests that threaten desert vegetation and helps maintain balance among smaller Pokémon populations like Sandshrew, Baltoy, and Numel. Because it creates sandstorms, Flygon inadvertently shapes the landscape moving dunes, revealing buried nutrients and scattering seeds across dry regions. Some researchers propose that Flygon may be partially responsible for the formation of certain desert oases, guiding or shielding water sources with its storms. Whether intentional or instinctive, this ecological effect has made Flygon a symbol of life coexisting with harsh conditions. In the Pokémon world's anthropological traditions, artwork depicting Flygon has been discovered etched into canyon walls and painted onto pottery in ancient Hoenn civilizations. The imagery often shows Flygon hovering above human figures, acting as a guardian spirit or messenger of the desert winds. Some depictions show Flygon leading caravans through sandstorms, reinforcing the belief that it was seen as a benevolent protector during long journeys. These ancient connections are especially interesting when considering Flygon's modern in-game reputation as a Pokémon that helps lost travelers find their way. A recurring lore detail mentioned across multiple Pokédex entries. In battle, Flygon's abilities continue to reflect its desert-born mobility and awareness. Levitate grants immunity to ground-type attacks, allowing it to evade moves like Earthquake, an especially fitting ability given its natural affinity for desert air currents. This immunity also serves as a narrative mirror to Trapinch's early vulnerability to ground attacks. As it evolves, it transcends the limitations of its past. It becomes not just stronger, but freer. That symbolic lift from earth to sky underscores Flygon's growth from a grounded ambush predator into a roaming spirit of the desert atmosphere. Flygon's design elements also incorporate real-world inspirations from desert wildlife and ancient myth. Its wings resemble those of the antlion lacewing, connecting back to Trapinch's larval stage inspiration from antlion larvae. Meanwhile, the goggles around its eyes evoke aviator designs and classic explorers of harsh environments. Some fans theorize that Flygon's shape nods to Middle Eastern folklore creatures, like the jinn or Fungling wine spirits, explaining the supernatural qualities associated with its song and storms. The combination of insect, dragon, and mythological motifs gives Flygon an identity that feels more like a guardian than a predator. Flygon has a strong presence in spin-off games as well. In the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon series, it is often depicted as a wise or noble character, reinforcing its lore as a desert guide. In Pokémon Colosseum and XD, Flygon is used by elite trainers, emphasizing its value in high-stakes battles. Even in Pokémon Go, Flygon remains a fan favorite due to its striking appearance, solid typing, and signature moves like Earth Power. The Pokémon anime has portrayed Flygon as both heroic and elusive. One of its most iconic appearances came during the Jirachi Wishmaker movie, in which a friendly Flygon helps Ash and his friends traverse a vast desert landscape. Its role in that film introduced an entire generation of fans to the creature's gentle nature and majestic movement. Later series continued to highlight its grace, often presenting it as a Pokémon whose loyalty is earned, not demanded. Another interesting aspect of Flygon's identity lies in its role within Hoenn's desert-themed trio of Pokémon, Trapinch, Vibrava, Flygon, coexisting in the same regional narrative as Cacnea, Baltoy, Claydol, and Camerupt. This shared environment forms a cohesive, thematic ecosystem. Ancient ruins, hypnotic sounds, mirages, and sandstorms. Flygon sits atop that ecosystem, not as a tyrant, but as a roaming sentinel of the desert sky. Even its coloration adds to its identity. The bright green body reflects resilience and adaptability, while the red-tinted eye coverings embody protection and clarity against harsh elements. Its triangular wing patterns resemble natural desert fractals shapes seen in dunes, cracked earth, and retreating wind lines. These small visual touches help cement Flygon's role as an organic component of its landscape rather than an intruder. Perhaps the most enduring reason Flygon is loved is its emotional tone. Unlike many intimidating dragons, Flygon projects calm enthusiasm, an adventurous spirit without malice. It feels approachable, friendly, and curious, qualities that make it especially appealing to both young players and longtime fans. Even though other dragons surpass Flygon statistically, none replace its unique charm. It remains one of Hoenn's most iconic Pokémon, a creature whose identity is shaped by the environment it protects and the myths that surround it. Flygon's legacy is one of harmony with harshness. It thrives where others struggle, sees beauty in what many consider barren, and brings melody to landscapes shaped by silence. For every traveler who has seen its silhouette against a setting sun or heard its soft song through the storm, Flygon becomes more than a Pokemon. It becomes a memory, a guide, a spirit of the wind whose presence lingers long after the sands settle. Cacturn has always stood out as one of the most haunting and atmospheric Pokemon ever introduced in the Hoenn region. A grass and dark type, with a reputation rooted in the stillness of deserts and the quiet eeriness of long, starless nights. Where many grass types thrive in vibrant forests or humid jungles, Cacturn is a creature shaped by harshness, sandstorms instead of rainstorms, dry winds instead of flowing rivers, heat-soaked days followed by bone-chilling nights. Everything about its design, behavior, and lore reflects the idea of a Pokemon that has learned to endure one of the most unforgiving environments in the Pokemon world. Its presence in the desert is like a shadow cast by the sun itself, a sentinel who waits silently for the night when its true nature emerges. Because of this, Cacturn feels less like a simple cactus Pokemon and more like a desert myth made real, a creature built from patience, endurance, and the sharp edges of survival. During the blistering daylight hours, Cacturn barely moves at all. Its body stiffens, its arms droop, and it becomes almost indistinguishable from a large cactus, using the scorching heat as camouflage. This behavior is not a quirk, it's essential to its biology. The moisture stored in its body evaporates more slowly when it remains still, conserving energy for the colder nighttime hours. In this state, its eyes dim into small slits, and its sandy, spiny exterior blends seamlessly with the desert's natural flora. Travelers have often mistaken Cacturn for simple plant life during the day, unaware of the creature listening carefully, conserving every ounce of its strength. It's a perfect survival tactic in an environment where movement can be the difference between life and death. But when the desert sun slips below the horizon and the temperature drops sharply, Cacturn awakens. Its joints loosen, the shadows deepen around its body, and its eyes glow with eerie intensity. The nighttime desert is where Cacturn reigns. It begins to wander, sometimes for hours without tiring, its long stride perfectly adapted to soft sand and uneven ground. According to the Pokédex, Cacturn is known to stalk travelers through the desert at night, its footsteps silent, its presence unnoticed, until fear or exhaustion sets in. While this seems frightening, the lore implies that Cacturn behaves this way out of instinct, not malice. It is a creature evolved to conserve energy during the day and move relentlessly through the cold landscape at night, mirroring the rhythm of desert predators who strike only when conditions favor them. Cacturn's design supports this lore beautifully. Its triangular eyes, jagged grin, and scarecrow-like shape all evoke imagery of folklore creatures used to frighten away intruders. The green, segmented body resembles a cactus stalk brought to life, while the black spikes resemble dried thorns, brittle yet dangerous. Even the stitching-like patterns across its body hint at a creature pieced together by the desert, something that shouldn't move yet does. The scarecrow interpretation is reinforced by its pre-evolution, Cacnea, which is rounder, cuter, and more plant-like. The transformation from Cacnea to Cacturn parallels the evolution from a benign cactus into a hardened survivor that has endured countless desert nights. When viewed as a pair, they tell a story of innocence shaped by environment, a recurring theme in Hoenn's ecosystem design. Despite its eerie reputation, Cacturn is far from a mindless predator. In battle, it demonstrates surprising cleverness and adaptability. Its dual grass, Dark typing gives it a blend of offensive pressure and tricky maneuverability. Moves like Needle Arm and Seed Bomb take advantage of its cactus physiology, delivering sharp, thorn-laden strikes that hit harder than expected. Meanwhile, Dark-type moves like Sucker Punch, Payback, and Dark Pulse highlight its ambush-based instincts, rewarding anticipation and timing. Cacturn is at its best when used strategically, leveraging its ability to surprise opponents when they least expect it. Trainers who use Cacturn effectively often rely on prediction, luring attacks, and punishing them with carefully chosen responses. In this way, Cacturn mirrors its real-world desert behavior, waiting, watching, striking with precision. Its ability options deepen that identity. Sand Veil increases evasiveness during sandstorms, making it harder to hit while the winds blur its silhouette, perfectly reflecting its natural habitat. Meanwhile, its hidden ability, Water Absorb, mitigates one of Grass's greatest weaknesses, allowing Cacturn to recover health when struck by water-type moves. This ability paints a picture of a Pokémon so accustomed to drought that it absorbs any form of moisture instantly, using even hostile attacks to sustain itself. Combined, these abilities create a robust set of defensive and situational strategies that fit Cacturn's lore perfectly, a desert phantom that uses the elements themselves to survive. Outside of battle, Cacturn's presence influences desert ecosystems in fascinating ways. Researchers studying Pokémon behavior in Hoenn's Route 111 have documented how wild Cacturn shape the movement of other local Pokémon. For example, Sandshrew and Trapinch tend to avoid areas with multiple Cacturn, likely sensing their nocturnal patterns. Meanwhile, nocturnal species like Zangoose and Mighty Yenna have been observed tracking Cacturn from a distance, using its slow, deliberate movements as indicators of safe pathways or possible prey activity. In this sense, Cacturn acts similarly to real-world apex scavengers. Its movement signals environmental shifts for other creatures. It's not just a predator, it's a keystone of desert nightlife. Cacturn's relationship with the environment is further influenced by its physiology. Like real cacti, it stores water in its body, making it surprisingly heavy. This stored moisture acts as insulation during cold nights, allowing Cacturn to move tirelessly even as temperatures drop. However, this moisture also makes it vulnerable to extreme heat, which is why it remains motionless during the day. The heat would sap its reserves too quickly, leaving it dehydrated. Trainers in regions with harsh climates must consider this carefully. Cacturn performs best in cooler, shaded areas or during nighttime battles. Even when raised in captivity, its behavior remains consistent with its desert adaptations, a testament to how deeply its instincts are ingrained. Cacturn's lore continues to expand in subtle but meaningful ways across games. In Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, Cacturn is often portrayed as cunning, opportunistic, or mischievous, echoing its desert hunter persona. In some storylines, Cacturn appears as a minor antagonist or trickster figure, guiding the player into traps or acting as part of an ambush. Its personality is always depicted as cunning rather than reckless, a calculated presence that prefers strategy over brute force. This interpretation aligns with its Pokédex entries and design themes, showing consistent characterization across mediums. The anime also provides additional insight into its personality. In certain episodes, Cacturn belonging to the recurring character Harley displays theatrical flair, exaggerated movements, and dramatic poses. Though comedic in tone, this portrayal highlights an often overlooked trait. Cacturn can be expressive and loyal when raised by confident, eccentric trainers. Instead of being portrayed as sinister or frightening, Harley's Cacturn is affectionate, sometimes overwhelmingly so, which adds a softer dimension to its character. It shows that Cacturn isn't defined solely by its desert reputation. Its personality is shaped by the trainer it bonds with. Even its Mega Evolution absence tells us something about its design. Cacturn is already conceptually complete, a creature whose strength comes not from overwhelming power, but from environment-driven adaptation. Its entire identity revolves around enduring adversity, not overcoming it through evolution. In a way, Cacturn doesn't need a megaform because it already embodies a perfect blend of nature and narrative. Its form tells a story, its behavior reinforces it, and its mechanics express it beautifully through gameplay. Cacturn's role in Hoenn's interconnected lore also adds depth to the region's world-building. Hoenn is a region shaped by extremes: volcanic mountains, humid rainforests, and vast oceans. The desert near Route 111 serves as a stark contrast, and Cacturn is its living symbol. It represents a part of the region untouched by water-based mythology, volcanic eruptions, or ancient legendary conflicts. Instead, its story is rooted in everyday survival, Pokemon and humans, navigating a harsh landscape where nature dictates the rules. In a region defined by grand narratives, Cacturn provides the quieter, grittier lore that fills the gaps and makes the world feel alive. Fan interpretations of Cacturn frequently emphasize its eerie charm. Some see it as a misunderstood guardian of the desert, scaring away reckless travelers to prevent them from wandering too far. Others imagine it as a trickster, using its immobility during the day to frighten those who accidentally approach too closely. These interpretations demonstrate how well Cacturn's design communicates story even without dialogue. A single glance is enough to evoke a narrative in the viewer's mind, a rare achievement for a design so seemingly simple. What truly makes Cacturn fascinating is the contrast between its stillness and its potential for relentless motion. During the day, it is a statue. By night, it is a shadow that moves with surprising speed. This duality echoes real desert life, where animals conserve energy until conditions allow them to move freely. Cacturn embodies this rhythm perfectly, showing how Pokemon design blends fantasy with ecological realism. And so, Cacturn remains one of Hoenn's most quietly iconic creatures, a symbol of survival, stealth, and the strange beauty found only in silent landscapes. Whether seen as a desert sentinel, a strategic battler, or a misunderstood wanderer of the night, Cacturn's presence in the Pokemon world is unmistakable. It's the stillness in the sandstorm, the glow in the moonlit dunes, and the reminder that even in the harshest environments, something extraordinary can thrive.